Hello and welcome to the class. My name's Paddy. Today we're going to be talking about underlining and using keywords in the IELTS reading test. If you have any questions after you watch this class, you can click on the chat icon at the top of the page here. If you click on that icon, you will be able to send us a message with any questions that you have. This is the second class of 2 classes, and this video will last around 20 minutes. We're going to focus on questions where you have to match sentence endings, and then we're going to look at how we can use underlined keywords to help us with these. So by the end of this video, you will be more aware of how to use these skills in the reading test. During this video, there will be some questions for you to answer. You can find these questions below the video. I will tell you when you need to answer the questions, and I will give you about 10 to 15 seconds to do so. Okay, let's get started. In this class, we're going to look at a question type where you have to match sentence beginnings to sentence endings. In the questions, you will be given the beginning of a sentence. These will be the numbered questions. Then, underneath, you will be given the endings, and these will have letters attached to them. There will always be more endings than beginnings. This means that you will not use some of the endings. These are called distractors because they are designed to make you think they could be the correct answer, but of course they are not correct. Now let's look at an example question where we have to match sentence beginnings to sentence endings. Question 1 says, in the 17th century, the Dutch East India Company. Question 2, the project to redevelop Dejima into an open-air museum. And question 3, Henrik Duyf. Now let's look at the options. Remember, there will always be more options than questions. A, felt Dejima could encourage better relations between Japan and the West. B, was instrumental in maintaining Dutch ownership over the island. C, has been criticised as a waste of public money. D, is expected to receive more attention because of a new film. Or E, was praised by a professor at Komazawa University. So in this case, we can use the structure of the sentence to help us. Look at the endings A, B, C, D, E. What kind of word do they start with? Is it a noun, a verb, or an adjective? Look at the first question below this video and choose the correct option. These endings start with felt, was, has been criticised, is expected, and was praised. These are all verbs. This means that we know that the sentence beginnings, 1, 2, and 3, must be nouns or noun phrases. So let's think about what type of nouns and noun phrases they are. They could be people or organisations. This is going to help us identify possible correct answers. Which of those options, 1, 2, and 3, are people or organisations? Look at the next question below this video and choose the 2 correct options, which are people or organisations. Number 1 is an organisation, the Dutch East India Company. At the beginning, it says in the 17th century. This is just a time expression that gives us some context, but the main noun is the Dutch East India Company. And we also have number 3, Henrik Duyf. To me, this looks like a person's name. Number 2 is not a person or organisation, it's a project. What kind of project? A project to redevelop Dejima into an open-air museum. So now that we know that number 1 and number 3 are people or organisations, have a think about the endings. Which of those ending verbs could only go with a person or an organization? Remember, we have felt, was, has been criticized, is expected, and was praised. Which of those could only go with a person or organization? Look at the next question below this video and choose the correct option. So in this case, A could only go with a person or an organization. The verb is felt, which is the past simple of feel. A person can feel something, and an organization can feel that something is true, for example. A project, from number 2, cannot feel something, so it must be a person or organization. This means that we know A could only go with 1 and 3. So this is helping us to narrow down our options for when we read the text. As well as this, we can also look at time phrases and the verb grammar. If we look at question 1, we can see that it starts with in the 17th century. This is a time expression for a finished past time. So this might help us to eliminate some answers that don't work in a finished past time. Look at options A to E again. Look at the verb form. Which of those cannot go with a finished past time expression? Look at the next question below this video and choose the 2 options which cannot go with in the 17th century. Option C uses present perfect passive, has been criticized. We can't use present perfect with a finished past time. So number 1 cannot be C. D is a present simple passive, is expected. Again, this could not go with a finished past time. A, B, and E are past simple forms, so these could go with number 1. So here we've used the grammar and the context to help us eliminate some answers, and this is going to make it quicker for when we're looking for those answers. In the previous example, we used grammar to help us eliminate some possibilities, making our life a little bit easier. In this example, we can't use grammar. Why? Well, if we look at all the sentence endings, we'll see that they are clauses or sentences. Light pollution is visible from as far away as Mars. The public is much less concerned about light pollution than other environmental issues. Animal migration patterns are affected by light pollution. D. Plants may use the moon's lunar cycles to regulate their growth. And the majority of light pollution comes from private industry rather than public infrastructure. The 3 sentence beginnings will introduce a clause, confirm that, claim that, or because to connect 2 clauses. So here, grammar is not going to help us, unfortunately. But we can still use the context. Number 1 and number 2 use verbs of reporting what somebody said. So confirm that and claim that. What comes after could be anything, because a person could say anything. So any of these options are possible. We would need to read the text. However, number 3 uses the linking word because. So it must be a reason for something. And it's a reason for the government not responding adequately. Now, if we look at these, we could think of logical reasons why a government has not responded properly or has not responded well. A. Light pollution is visible from as far away as Mars. This, to me, doesn't seem like a logical reason why a government wouldn't respond. B starts with the public, and we see the word concerned. This could be connected to why a government would act. C. Animal migration patterns are affected by light pollution. This seems unlikely as well. It's a possibility, but we can mentally reduce its likeliness. D, plants may use the moon's lunar cycles to regulate their growth. Again, this seems like an unlikely reason for a government not responding to a situation. And E talks about the difference between private industry and public infrastructure. Okay, this could be connected to a government's decision. So although we can't be sure, we might say that B and E are the most likely possibilities for number 3. Now we're going to look at a final example and practice locating the answers in the text. First, let's read through the questions. Number 1, financial pressure on the UK's National Health Service. Number 2, the tendency of people to diagnose their own conditions. And number 3, people's awareness that the internet provides immediate access to information. Some of you may have noticed that all of these are noun phrases. They deal with abstract nouns, so pressure, tendency, and awareness. So we can expect that the sentence endings are probably going to start with a verb. A, gives patients anxiety about asking for medical examinations. B, has caused people to be uncomfortable when things are not as expected or are unclear. C, may be due to the public's belief that doctors lack information about some diseases. D, was encouraged by government policy. E, is partly caused by patients asking for examinations they don't need. So grammar's not going to help us here, and all 3 of them are abstract nouns, and so they could fit with any of the answers. We would need to look at the text to get our answers to these questions. We can't really use prediction to help us here. Now we're going to start with question number 1. You should always start with the first question because the questions go in the same order as the text. So if you find the area of the text that question 1 refers to, then it's going to be easier to find the other ones shortly after. As well as this, once we've done number 1, we can eliminate an answer, and that makes 2 and 3 much easier. So let's underline some keywords in question number 1. Financial pressure, UK, and National Health Service. So we can see a proper noun there with National Health Service, a proper noun with the UK, and financial pressure is going to be important here. In terms of looking at the text and finding the correct part, which talks about question number 1, which of those keywords do you think is going to be most useful to find in the text? Think about financial pressure, UK, or National Health Service. Which one do we expect to be easy to find in the text? Look at the next question below this video and choose the correct option. So generally speaking, countries like the UK will be good keywords to find in the text. The reason for this is that they don't often change. There are no synonyms. Now, in the case of the UK, that's not 100% true. Sometimes Britain or Great Britain is used as a synonym for the UK. In the same way, the USA is often a synonym for America. However, there are not many countries where this is true. The other words, financial pressure, I would expect this to be paraphrased in the text some way. Maybe money troubles or difficulties with funding. National Health Service is a proper noun, so it might appear exactly the same in the text, or it may be paraphrased in some way. The medical infrastructure of the UK, for example. Now let's look at the text and see if we can identify a section that matches some of those keywords. So here I have identified a section of the text which I think has some matches with our keywords. Let's just remind ourselves of those keywords. We had financial pressure, UK, and National Health Service. And some of the synonyms or paraphrasings that we thought of were funding problems or money problems, Britain, which is an approximate synonym of the UK, and healthcare system, or maybe medical infrastructure. Can we find any of those matches in this text? Well, the first thing I noticed was Britain, so it's talking about this country specifically, and health service, which matches to National Health Service. Notice how in the question it's a proper noun, which is the name of the organization, but in the text it's just an example of one country's health service. Now, financial pressure, we can find a few words which connect here. We can see damage to the nation's economy. So it's not really financial pressure on the health service, but the country's economy. So that's not a perfect match. Costing at least 420 million. Okay, so this may relate to the cost on the health service. And enormous strain. Strain is a synonym of pressure in this case. So we can be pretty confident that this section of the text is relevant to our question. Now let's go back to the question sentence endings, underline some keywords in the options, and see if they match to anything in this section of the text. So option A gives patients anxiety about asking for medical examinations. B has caused people to be uncomfortable when things are not as expected or unclear. C may be due to, meaning because of, public belief that doctors lack information about diseases. D, encouraged by government policy. And E, caused by, so again, because of, patients asking for examinations they don't need. Let's look back at the rest of the text and see if we can find any of those matches. Health anxiety, putting strain on Britain's health service. Costing 42 million, damage to the nation's economy. Not least among the contributors, so this is one of the contributors is the number of expensive and unnecessary medical appointments demanded by patients and an increased number of days taken off work. Thinking about those keywords that we've underlined here, which answer option has the most matches? Look back at these options and decide which one is probably going to be our answer for number 1. Look at the next question below this video and choose the correct option. A, B, C, D, or E. Here, the correct answer was E. Financial pressure on the UK's National Health Service is partly caused by patients asking for examinations they don't need. So what are the matches there? We're looking for caused by, patients asking, examinations don't need. Contributors, so one of the things that contributes to this big cost is expensive and unnecessary, that links to don't need, medical appointments, that links to examinations and tests, demanded, asking, and by patients. Nothing links to this idea of taking days off work. The only other option which had some matches was perhaps A, gives patients anxiety about asking for medical examinations. In the text, we see that this health anxiety is causing financial pressure on Britain's health service. But in the question, it's saying that the financial pressure is what causes the anxiety. So that is not correct in this case. So for number 1, we would write our answer as E. That is the end of class 2. Now it's time to do the extra training and practice activities on this topic. Remember, if you have any questions for us, you can click on the chat icon, which is at the top of your page, just there. If you click on that icon, you'll be able to send us a little message with any questions that you have. Thank you for listening.